Right, so I'm coming from GN Store Nord, but I'm coming from the GN is complicated structure. I will explain a little bit more in a moment. I'm coming from GN Audio, which was used, it was called GN Netcom before. Just that you know, my role is technology scouting, technology development, and running down technology programs. And I had a number of roles in company. I've been there more than 10 years in technology development. Right, so I'll tell you a little bit about GN Audio, what it is, and then some reflections on disruptive conceptualization and some case studies instead of processes. Right, so we are Jabra GN Audio, but we are part of a bigger company, GN, which is quite an old company, has changed its nature over many years. It was telecommunication company, telegraph company. Today is concentrated on exploiting knowledge about sound and hearing to develop products. And we are divided into, I would say we make medical products, with, we're used to, our brand name is ReSound. Now the company name is not ReSound, it's actually GN Hearing. We're changing our identity to confuse everybody. It's called GN Hearing, but they have a brand called ReSound, Beltone, Intertone, a number of brands around the world. And there we compete with Oticon and Videx, obviously. We make professional communication products, and we use brand name Jabra there. That is quite a big business for us as well, for contact centers and offices. And then we have consumer products, which are also called Jabra, which are headsets for communication and music. There's always an element of communication in it. We don't make just music products, that you know. So quite a big company, in total more than 5,000 people. In GN Audio, which are the two lowest blocks here, we are more than 1,000 people, 280 engineers. And we also have development site in China, so we are not sort of afraid of Chinese engineers because we have them in China and they develop our products as well. We also have development site in India as well, and we have partners around the world. So GN Audio is actually two lowest block, and then the biggest part of the company is actually the medical grade. Here is shown as the smallest part. Right, and our sort of claim to fame is that we have a lot of know-how about communication and sound processing. Not only about hearing, but also how to capture speech and utilize it and process it perfectly so it can be transmitted over telecommunication lines. If we look at GN Audio, our product lines are really divided according to use cases. So from this you can obviously deduce that we are very much focused on users, how they use our products, and this is what drives our development. We have what we call call-centric products, which are, I would say, very specialized to be used in call centers, people who talk a lot on the phone all day. There are around 10 million people like that in the world, and it's slowly growing market, but it's a growing market. Then we have what we call task-based products, which are products that can be used for talking on the phone, but also for listening to music as well. They're optimized in two ways. We have conference speakerphones, we have in-car speakerphones, and we have smaller Bluetooth headsets that belong in this category. They're more professional in the sense that they have multiple microphones, do a lot of sound processing as well. Then we have audio on the go, which are mostly tuned towards music listening. And then the latest product category we have is sports audio, which are specialized products that are for communication, for listening to music, and they also have some sports-related sensors and functions. So quite a broad range of products. We introduce many products every year because some of this is a fast-moving consumer market, so quite a speed in development. And the two cases I will present to you a bit later is how we went about developing the Pro series of product and Jabra Sports Plus, which is one of the quite new products we have on the market. A little bit reflection of disruption. How disruptive can you be? So the definition of disruptive innovation came in '95, and I read the book with great interest at the time. It's not that I'm reading a lot of books about innovation, I have to say. I'm more practitioner. But anyway, it was quite a interesting sort of theory Clayton Christensen had, that you disrupt typically from the bottom and you create completely new market, and through this you create a lot of employment opportunities and growth in the economy. But being at GN now, where I've been for 11 years, I mean, you have a growing market where you are in, and you actually have to innovate there. I mean, it's not just we'll now make bicycles, because bicycles are a growing market in Denmark as well. We're making communication products, and we make headsets for communication and music. So this is the market where we are. So we have some incumbent players in the market that we compete with, but we still have to innovate, right? And there are significant barriers to entry to create complete products. There could be some startup companies that make some new features, some fantastic new small technologies, and we work together with them. But create the complete ecosystem of distribution, service, and actual products with a lot of know-how inside is quite difficult to make. But we still have to innovate and make it disruptive in a way that we engage new users and create, sort of expand our market. So what disruption is in this context, I think, is more like creates a very differentiated product offering. And how we can do this, I think a lot of this has to do with really observing the change in the market and changing the user behavior. I mean, with this, when you think about disruptive innovation, you can ask, is Tesla car really a disruptive innovation? It's actually quite an interesting case story. I would say, so to the end user, it's a means of transportation with 4 wheels and passenger cabin and an engine that can bring you from A to B. But there is a very different engine concept. Obviously, the technology is different. If you look at it, it's very different energy supply system as well, right? Which will disrupt eventually the gasoline stations. There is something very new about how the product is being updated once a week with new software. So the product gets better. One of the stories of Elon Musk is the product will get better over time. And they can sort of measure a lot of things in the product, so they can know when you have to service it. You don't wait until it breaks down. You service it before it breaks down. So there is a lot of, I would say this is very differentiated product concept compared to traditional cars. A lot of this has to do that we have moved from, I would say, making standalone products into connected products, smart products, IoT-enabled products. IoT is a sort of big word these days. It's about getting information out of product or pushing information out of product to create new opportunities. And part of it, what I see from Leo or from maybe Videx in the end, will be also this journey from standalone to connected and smart. So this is, is this really a disruptive concept? Actually, Clayton Christensen asked his collaborators to look at Tesla last year and to see, is this really a disruptive? According to his definition, they provided 5 criteria for being disruptive. It must target overseen customers, they said, is asymmetric motivation. Asymmetric motivation is actually quite critical. It's difficult maybe to understand. It means A, B, and B has asymmetric advantage, meaning they don't have capital spent on hotels. So the people who have spent money on the hotels, they have difficulties of getting away from the spend. So there's very asymmetric competition they created. Can improve performance fast enough, does create new value network, including sales channel, does it disrupt all incumbent, or can the existing players catch up somehow? And the conclusion of this analysis was that Tesla is really not disruptive. It is just sustaining innovation. I not quite agree with this. I would say it may be that the other players in the car industry can catch up, but they have shown the way, at least. And they could have so much head start that it will be difficult to catch up. Whatever they really take over the 60 million car a year business, probably not because they come from the top, but it's still a good example that you can come into a growing market and become still not profitable company. Big capital investment is incredible. So Tesla is not a profitable company. There's still a long way to go. Now, new product development, this is what we do in R&D in GN Audio, and I could show you a lot of process slides, how we organize ourselves, and we do. That's not the main topic of my presentation, but I would say that we have a process for how we organize our projects. And there is some concepting phase and there's development phase. And the concepting, and there are some ideas coming from product management or coming from R&D that are being described and analyzed by a steering committee, and they are put into development. So there's a roadmap and it goes into development. I think the important part to enable innovation in such an environment is to have some concepting phase, and depending on the ambition level of the project, this could be for a short time, it could be long time, but there's a bounded time. So we have this need to innovate in a short time and make a lot of feasibility studies, prototypes, and discover something. It's not a separate group of people, it's the same people that will eventually work on all the way through the development and industrialization to manufacture. That's the same people that start inventing things. And then you say, is this the whole truth? No, this is not the whole truth. We also have a research department that is working on ongoing research projects where they have to build prototypes and make new algorithms. So there is something outside this. There are some technology projects that run outside of this product development process. But I think it's important for product development to have some time to make exploration, and for some projects, we provide a lot of time to do exploration, so we can invent something new in this. There are obviously some checkpoints where we have to kill projects, kill the idea and kill the project where the business case is not there. And obviously, many R&D engineers still say this is very rigid. I mean, it is rigid, but we can sometimes provide 1 year for the concepting, if needed be, for the project to think about. Obviously, no one has to go into to be so busy that they overlook the obvious solutions and say we don't have time, right? We need some time for innovation, and we have projects outside this product development as well. I also think that's important to, when you think about disrupting something, that you also consider all elements of the product, not just the core function. The core function of our product is capturing speech and reproducing sound in ears. But there's a lot of other stuff around it. As the look and feel of product is for many people is quite important, in our industry at least. There's the performance characteristics. Could be a little bit difficult to explain to people actually what is the performance of a headset. There's the distribution channel, the cost, the service, and a lot of other secondary functions. So there's a lot of areas you can take a look at and say how we can improve and change and create different perception. So it boils down to getting customer insights, combine this with some technical developments that are occurring, and generate some new customer value. So it requires some insights, right? So I think getting insight is for me, from my perspective, is something very, very important. How to get it out of the user. You could be a user yourself, or you could observe some users. That's extremely important. Then you apply some new technology. There's a lot of new technical developments that you can combine and provide some new value, and do it in the right time. Timing is a bit of a tricky thing. You can be ahead of time, or you can be late. Getting user insights, I sometimes show these slides to people saying there's a lot of methods. But there are something that is called unknown needs. For this, you will typically need some ethnography where you really observe how people are using your product. So it's not about, so if you are on the right side of this slide, you probably get most value by discovering unknown needs. So it's not about making hypotheses. If you have some hypothesis, then you can just do a questionnaire or some interview with people and get insight. And you have quantitative, qualitative methods. Methods on the right side are time-consuming and costly and difficult, but they pay off. And actually, I have this yellow arrow because my two cases I will show you. In one, it is based on ethnography, the other is based on questionnaires. There was a lot of hypotheses here. There was no hypothesis here, over here. So one case study is our professional product, the Jabra Pro 9400. Our starting point was that we had a number of products on the market that were quite successful, but it was a little bit small market. We wanted to expand the market, make something really different that will stand out from this. We knew a lot about what were the pains and gains from those products. There was some very complicated setup. We had to improve on this, probably. We also started to see in 2007, when iPhone came out, we seen some people start to use mobile phones at work, but everybody had a desk phone at the time. So this was the telephone. And there were some people who were talking about PC telephony. Some people were using Skype, but not many at 2007. So maybe new trends. So how can we grow the market, catch up on those trends, and create new value proposition? So we studied lead users in London who signed non-disclosure agreements with us. And they were in I would say, demanding communication situation where they had to talk a lot on phones with many customers. We really observed them. We developed a number of low-fidelity prototypes, as I call them. Not something not working, but something for discussion with them. How will they use products? Done contextual interviews to try to understand what is really how difficult is their life and how can we improve their sort of working situation. And one of the users we classified them according to how many communication channels they were using, and many of them were using like 3 audio communication channels every day, which is quite demanding all day, a quite stressful job. And this guy, he had 3 headsets on his table because he had sometimes worked with his mobile phone, sometimes with his telephone, and sometimes he walked away, so he needed something at a distance. This is a good user for us. We can sell him 3 headsets, so maybe we should just make headsets and sell many headsets to each user. This could be one solution to this problem. But actually what we really proposed and came out for discussion that make one headset that can connect to all those communication channels and enable it, make it in such a way that it's easy to switch those communication channels. So it's not everything just on the head where they don't see it. It has to be something they can operate in a nice way. And somehow can know whom they're talking to, can put something in a hole, switch to another, and if this is their life, we have to make it better for them. We also do the essential features doing well, make it plug and play, so simplify setup. And remember, it was 2007. We've seen a very good touchscreen in iPhone. So there's something about it. There are some very good touch sensors now coming. Can we do something with this? So the product that came out of it, I would say the core function is still a headset. It's audio communication. We addressed some new insights by one product. We didn't try to sell them 3 headsets. We said one that works better. It's more expensive, sure, but it still works better. So it's triple convergence, as we call it. It's plug and play, almost. It's a very different look and feel of the product. No one has seen anything like it. Before, we introduced new technology, touchscreen and touch sensors. And believe it or not, this became the big commercial success. And also, we didn't try to make it the cheapest product. We actually put it at I would say it's not outrageously expensive, but people understand the value of it. So, ethnography and discovering hidden needs, because no one has told us explicitly we want something that will be so advanced. It's a little bit complicated inside. The user, it looks a little bit simple. I have on my table there, you can take a look at it later. So another case story I have is Jabra Pulse. We are now in 2012. We're making some music products, but then we notice another trend that fitness, more and more people are running, right? And some people start talking about wearable devices that can do some fancy things for you. And there was also a movement that still is there called Quantify Yourself. And people really like to get some biometric data about themselves, especially connection with fitness training. Some people are very sort of really want to collect a lot of data and study this. So can we provide a new value proposition in sports headset? Because we made a sports headset which just looked like a sports headset, meaning it has a yellow color and was a little bit more watertight than usually. But what sport is in this? So they say, well, let's make something that's truly for people who are into sports. So when we looked at some of the pictures from people running marathon, so what do you see? Do you see people running? I see people listening to music. A lot of them are listening to music. And when you see people sort of at the starting line, what do? They start all their gadgets to measure distance, pace, heart rate, what have you, right? So this is what people actually do in sports. So many so it was a basic observation that many runners, for example, are using biometric fitness devices. Also, many of them are using phones while they are running. There are also some heart rate monitors that are quite becoming popular. Some people are using chest straps to get it very correct. Also, some people running indoor on a treadmill and want to measure a lot of stuff. We made some prototypes of a device that we could put in the air that could measure a lot of stuff in the air. I've been running, and many other people were running. Said, we can make this work. We can put everything together and make this work. And maybe this will be a sort of quite a good solution for people who are into the fitness. So and actually we ran a big questionnaire with 5,000 people in UK, US, Germany, and China. And we could see that there was a need for something, sort of a single integrated product that can, I would say, maybe replace, not completely, but replace for some people, replace the watch and the chest strap that measures the heart rate with a smartphone, with a headphone, Bluetooth headphone that provides a lot of sensors and collects a lot of biometrics data and generates a lot of sort of fitness analysis for you. So wireless sports headset with integrated heart rate monitor, and also we can connect to some existing sports communities. We can deliver data, so people are using Endomonto or MapMyFitness and whatever. We can integrate with this as well. Obviously, there is a hardware product. Mechanical design is quite complicated, obviously, to fit all of this together. There is DSP, there is signal processing, there's motion processing, there's motion sensor, heart rate sensor, optical sensing, what have you. All this can be done today. We have a nice model for how we extract the heart rate, have certain data about the user, about his weight, age, gender, and can calculate his fitness level, his energy consumption from this in a small form factor. And it was at a time came out something called Bluetooth Low Energy, and Bluetooth Low Energy automatically enables integration of fitness data into Apple Health or some other applications on the smartphone. So we're riding on the technology wave, but we're also riding on a trend that we've observed with fitness. So we have the product, and this lady is wearing it, and it integrates with our app on the smartphone people want to use, but can also integrate with some other stuff. We have introduced new sensor technology that no one has really commercialized at that time. Today we have a little competition now, coming from big players, but so we can track heart rate, we can calculate energy consumption, we can calculate step rate, motion, actually in a more accurate way than compared to the watches that are sitting here, quite inaccurate, both as a pedometer and also in terms of heart rate. We have validated. It's not a medical device, because we don't want to claim this is medical, but this has been validated by 2 university studies as being very accurate compared to medical devices. And there's a lot of people interested in using this for our purposes. We have made a deal with TrainerMD, which is a sort of self-service medical website in US, where people can actually prescribe or get Jabra fitness headphones for collecting data and being analyzed through this website. And I will not claim that we can do anything about obesity, cancer, or diabetes, but we are just vehicle to collect some data. So I think it is, in a way, a radical departure from what we've been doing. So what are my conclusions for this? Am I on time? I guess I'm On time. Yeah. So those are two very different stories. And you can discuss whether it was sustaining or disruptive. I think it were, in a way, they were disruptive and took a lot of, I would say, courage to make both products. And there was a lot of deliberation internally. I mean, is it really too radically different? But I think we have addressed specific needs that are in the market. And I would say one of them is maybe bigger commercial success than the other. But the other, I would say, Jabra Pulse is much bigger, I would say, has, from an image point of view, made a lot of for the company because it really showed what capabilities we have internally in-house to make such a complex product. And for those of you who are in this managing innovation or something, or working with innovation or concept development, look out for changes. There are some changes that you can observe in how people behave, how people work, and try to figure out how you can address those changes with new products. And timing is difficult. I would say for the first product I described, we're maybe 1 year ahead of time. At that time, people will say, we have desk phone. This is what will be there for the next 10 years. Why should I also want to connect PC or smartphone to this? But 1 year later, they changed opinion. And today, it's beyond discussion. Actually, the desk phone is becoming sort of maybe not so common anymore. A lot of companies has just moved to PC telephony. And we have also products for that, so it's good for us. Right? The other product, I think, it was probably right on time, but we're actually ahead of any competition. It took 2 years for our companies to catch up, come with something like Jabra Pulse Sport. Just now they're coming out with something like that. So we're quite ahead of time. So timing is difficult. You have to get the insight. There is some new technology coming all the time. You have to be smart how to apply it. And it doesn't, I would say, preclude any of the other stuff you are doing, like in Nauticon, which I think is also a way of doing, having a sort of a structured approach to getting a technology roadmap, and we actually do the same. But I think it was more fun to look at some specific commercial success stories and saying that you can be smart and you can actually innovate. And we had a Chinese competitor to this Jabra Pulse Sport with ear sensor, and they have made all the mistakes that they can make, I can tell you. And they wanted to sell themselves to us because they believed that they have something, but I don't think they had. And they still don't have. So, thank you. That was all from me. Any questions? Yeah.
So to me, I think you actually did find some niches that have some signs of innovation, maybe not pure disruption. Mm-hmm. But what was disruptive to me was that you have a product, a fitness product, that you then suddenly have TrainerMD to actually prescribe without being a medical device. Yeah. To me, that's something that would not be achievable, right? Yeah, but it seems to be.
It seems there's accepted. There's some level of self-service in health now, because of apps and because of websites that provide advice. So I think those things are changing. But we are not claiming this is absolutely. Make a disclaimer saying this is not medical. If you really feel bad or you make some very strange observation with our product, go to the doctor and have medical checkup. Yeah.
I think what's interesting here is that you then suddenly have a product which is, something that the user likes, that the doctor then sees a value in prescribing.
Right.
And I think that's changing things. That's disruptive in my opinion again.
Yeah,
so interesting.
Yeah.
Have you been able to capitalize on the head start that you got from Jabra Pulse? You said 2 years. Have you been able
to a certain extent? I mean, we enabled new markets, we enabled new channels. Has it been very big commercial? We're a big company, so for us, commercial success has to be into millions. So we are not into millions. We're into 100,000s, as I say. So it's okay.
I mean, are you expanding with other similar products?
Yes, yes. We have a whole product line now, but not all with heart rates. Some of them have just motion sensing and some very advanced physiological models and some very advanced motion sensing in the sense that we can, for example, automatically count when people do repetitions of certain exercises and log this. So that's quite advanced. And we have unique advantage of doing this in the ear. It's extremely difficult to do very advanced motion sensing from arm or leg, where people are moving in a very uncontrolled way.
But the head isn't.
The head isn't so uncontrolled, I would say. It's actually much more controlled. So we can actually deduce quite a lot of information from the motion sensing in the mounted on the ear or in the ear. Yeah.
Yeah, so now you're asking the question if it's sustaining or disruptive innovation.
Yeah.
After like your launch of the product. So you're trying to put the term on, but how have you used it throughout the development? Have you used it as and have like the goal of making sustaining innovation or disruptive? No. Or have you first seen it afterwards?
No, I think it was in both products from the beginning. The intention was to somehow disrupt the market, It was stated as goal. I think you should when you do sort of organize a project, get people together, you should really be very clear and spell it out. That this is what you want, because we have some products that are clearly sustaining, and we tell people they're sustaining. Our concepting phase is very short because we don't want them to go into different directions. But if we have a disruptive product, we allow people to go into different directions, make some prototypes that will fail and say, we tried this, didn't work, but we tried this. Yeah.
Yeah, so how have you used it as a driving factor throughout the development?
Allowing people to make more experiments, usually. Sometimes we allow more time, but sometimes it's condensed time, but just it's a motivation factor, Also to a large extent to say that here we want to disrupt.
Okay, so you give it more time when it's disruptive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We do more, I would say. It sometimes could be like 1 year just doing technology studies before we are convinced we can make it. Yeah. Which is quite a long time for us. Spent 1 year just analyzing and exploring and prototyping.
Tomasz, thank you for your presentation. I'd like to use the Tesla example. As you mentioned, it doesn't fit the classical disruption definition. Yeah. However, if you ask the consumers, it's probably a top 10 list of most innovative.
Absolutely, that's my point as well. Yeah.
So my question is actually both to you and to the previous presenters, because you work in the companies who've been there for a while, and you do your innovation nicely and quietly, but you still do it. So can a company, any kind of company, consider itself to be innovative if the customer doesn't see you as an innovative company? If you don't come up with the top 10, 20, or 100 innovative companies?
I think it's important that consumers also see us, or our users see us as an innovative company. So I think it's a big part. That's what I said, that maybe for Jabra Pulse we didn't sell 10 millions in 2 years. That doesn't matter, because so many people have heard about it. And so many people now say GN and GN Audio, they can really do something that no one has been able to do before. So it creates a lot of credibility, both in the channel, but also, it plays in many roles, because then we also have our professional sales team and professional sales to big companies. They might not buy Jabra Pulse, but they know that we are on the forefront of all developments. And health in the workplace will eventually also become an issue. So we know now something about biometrics and measuring on people, and we have collaboration with some very advanced companies, doing workplace health, stuff like that. Yeah.
But does customer perception feature in the way you work and how you develop your products? Is it one of the drivers for you to be recognized as the most innovative company?
Yeah. We have competition, and we cannot, present ourselves as just doing the same old headset once again with 4 wires, sticking out of this thing on the head, and that's it. Just new color next year. No, we have to show that's what, especially our big customers expect from us. Right, our professional solutions go into many companies and many big companies as well, and they expect us to be at the forefront of development. And the world is not standing still in communication. We're getting more and more audio bandwidth, so we sound better and better. We do more and more noise reduction, so we sound, so our conferences are easier to make, and it requires a lot of development from our side. So we have to convince all the time our professional users that we will have better products next year. And we have. Yeah.
Yeah. You're not thinking about taking your consumer products up to the medical device? Just as
not really. I don't think we have. I think if should this happen, then I think our hearing aid group might have an interest in this. I don't know. Could be because they already sort of work with medical devices. We don't work with medical approvals and yeah.
So it seems like Jabra products require a lot of competences that you didn't have already in-house, motion sensors.
Yeah.
How did you go about acquiring that? And did you consider whether or not that would kind of defocus?
Yeah, you could always say that it could defocus, but I think we have a strong dedicated team just working on audio processing. They would not be defocused because this is additional competences we are bringing on board. I would say also some of the competences are coming from partner companies. But obviously working with partners also educates our people in a lot of new stuff, how things are working, about sensors and optical sensing, some lens constructions and what have you that we have to develop for the product. Yeah. I think, but it's also motivation for engineers to learn something new. Right. So we have also some guys who have been working on audio processing for years and say, now I want to work with motion sensing. Okay, so for 1 year you could work with motion sensing, and it's not exactly the same, but it's still signal sampling, conditioning, filtering, transformations, and what have you. Right. I mean, so yeah.
Do you see a new market in where GN hearing and GN audio is converging?
If I see, I can tell you what the press, or the trade press is seeing, that there's something called Hearables, they say, which is some kind of a crossover between a hearing aid and an audio device, and this might be something like this could happen, right? Because everybody's saying this will happen, so maybe this will happen. Who knows? So maybe there was a trend because they write about it in the trade press. Who knows? Absolutely, it's very different price markets. Also, I would say there are some fundamental differences between hearing aids and audio devices we make. So it's not the same stuff. But, also battery life and it's different.
One observation, which challenge you with. Now you discussed with disruption. I think the Jabra Pulse, that could be a candidate to disruptive innovation in the cable business.
I would say new market,
It's a new market from what you used to do, and you can go into it because you can sell music to keep it while running. And then you can offer them also the Pulse and other things, which to me, you can do that in many other ways.
Right.
Maybe you can get into the market that way, but you have the main competence in making things that is one of the head. And therefore your question comes in very right, saying, if you then have entered this market and start to grow, then you can expand into other functionalities, and that could be.
It could be. It could be. I'm not ruling this out, but I'm not talking about what will happen in the future. There are many options in the future. Yeah. It opens up a lot of new opportunities for us, and obviously it's something we discuss internally. Yeah, but I cannot tell you.
But that opens the next question. As you also say that you're having two very different organizations. One is targeted towards consumers. which is more in all this.
What is? I mean, we are next week we announce a new strategy, but what we see from this picture that I've shown is that the two organizations are kind of sort of converging a little bit more, especially on R&D front. We have such a breadth of competences in so many areas now. It could be an advantage to make something together. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. I think I will also have to think.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for a very interesting talk.
Yeah.